Thank you for tuning in to Purse Empowerment TV. I'm Shawnee, and of course, I'm going to be making sure that you have some money to go with your Monday. I want to make sure that you got some money to go with your money. So open up your spiritual purse, open up your actual purse, open up your wallet, open up your spiritual wallet, whichever one that you relate to, and it makes you feel richer. Because I'm about to give you some money, honey. I hope that you feel richer. I hope that you did something to add some value to your purse or your wallet today. Okay, now today we're going to have a very interesting conversation with someone that I think has an incredible mindset. I really do. Most of the guests that I've shared with you have all been guests that I've worked with, that I've worked with both online and offline. But Jay Malik is actually someone that I've only really been reading his thoughts, right? And some of his thoughts are so intriguing. They're so interesting. Some of them are very provoking in some ways. And I wanted to allow him to be a part of the conversation. So if you've been following along with Person Empowerment TV, all month long, we have been talking about how to build healthy relationships with your mate, how to make sure that you're getting the most cash if you're inside of a couple, should you be dating, whether or not if you are broke. And actually, Jay's going to be joining, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. For those of you who know, I work in the industry of personal finance. I help my clients heal and build a healthier relationship with their money. And Jay really helps provoke people to think bigger when it comes to their money. And he does a lot of what I like to call healthy social engineering. I really appreciate the social engineering that he offers, how he triggers thoughts and conversation amongst women and men. So I figured that we should bring him in so that we can talk a little bit about this. Let's make sure Jay comes on in. Hey, Jay!
What is going on?
I can't hear you. Everything. All right, so I have your questions here. So we're just going to jump right in. And if you want to add some questions, also for those that are listening in, if you have some questions specifically about how to build a healthy relationship with your mate surrounding money, if you have questions about, like last week, we were talking all about when you're just not cash compatible with your mate and how to kind of heal some of those differences. So we're just going to keep that conversation going. Jay, I know like this is like your lane, right? Like you're like, Shawnee, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, so now most people, right? So I don't agree with a lot of people. So the fact that I agree with you is actually very interesting to me because most of the times I'm listening to people like, nah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But I think we are going to have a little bit of banter because lately you've been adding something extra to your social media conversation. So you've been a lot more triggering than you were before. So maybe we'll run into some of that. Okay. So all right. Now, so let's open up with the first conversation, the first question starter. So do you think that people should be dating when they're broke? Do you think they should date when they're broke?
Let's define broke. Like, what would you define as?
Okay, so you can define it based on your terms because I have two possibilities. I have two possibilities where I've seen where it has worked, and then I have because I work in the industry of personal finance, and largely my clients are female, so it's not really just opinion for me. It's actually statistical data in terms of statistical data that is provided by larger financial institutions, and then when I get into the micros and the macros of individualistic, money, it changes the way that I think about it. So you can define broke by however your standard is.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
I would look at broke. How I would define it personally is if you're working and you're paying the bills, but there's nothing else there. You're not able to save efficiently to build towards the future. And if you're in that space, I don't think it's the best space to operate in trying to date because when your money's funny, you look at people differently and you may
Mhm.
accept some things that you wouldn't normally accept if you were in a good financial place. You may pick a person who's also struggling financially to kind of, piggyback on like in a weird way. I just think it's not a healthy space.
Okay. Okay, so I've seen it in a few different ways, right? So I come from a family where most of the people remain married for maybe about anywhere from a span of about 30 to 50 years. Okay, so and when I look at my grandmother and my grandfather's marriage, who were married for 60 years, um, when I looked at the social dynamics of their marriage, I looked at it and I saw it as a very healthy marriage. I saw these people work together, and based on the stories that was shared by my grandfather, is that he didn't have a lot of resources when they began their relationship, and neither did my grandmother. What's so very interesting about my grandmother and my grandfather is that my grandfather was 19, and then he married my grandmother when she was 15. So like back in the day, that was
Mm.
like totally like, the standard, like people did that, right? But when I look at the social dynamics and the financial influences of how these two people came together and they used their resources to create a life greater than what both of them had, my uncles um, became college educated. They became homeowners. They both had, I grew up in a family where my grandfather was a contractor, my grandmother was a cosmetologist. So they really use their resources to really create a better life. Also, when I experienced them as people, they experienced each other in a very healthy way. I didn't find my grandfather to be overly dominant to my grandmother. I think that because of the way that their chemistry, the way that they work together, she was able to create her own individual empire, create her own, experiences. So that is some of the social data that I have from there. However, when I'm working with a lot of my clients who are mostly females, some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them are college graduates and things like that. And oftentimes when I see them get into relationships when they're not financially solid themselves, oftentimes they get themselves into relationships that can be either emotional or financially abusive for them. I have seen that. I've seen them stay in relationships longer than they should, just because they don't have access to financial capital to either be able to substantiate their children or be able to substantiate themselves individually. So, interesting enough, I probably would say, it really depends on the social dynamics of those two individuals interacting. Another piece of social evidence that I have with my strain of clients, like after a decade, what I do see sometimes, Jay, and you can tell me what you feel about this or what you've seen and experienced about this. Oftentimes, some of my clients that do not have as much resources. So, say for instance, if I'm working with two 9 to 5ers, they both make $45,000. So together they make $90,000, right? Oftentimes, I see them working very well with money together. I see them saving money. I see them pooling their resources together. I see them listening to each other. I see them bending and moving around. However, when I'm working with two of my clients that both of them, one may be an attorney and then one may be a doctor, or maybe two doctors, or two people that are like well established, I see those social dynamics really get a little different in terms of how they share money. What are your thoughts about that?
Mm. So to your first point
Mhm.
about your grandparents, I think a lot of that has to do with the time period we live in, and there's so much more autonomy for not only just the woman but also the man. There's not a huge social pressure for a man to be a husband. That's not that like before. It's like there's a time period where you're supposed to do that. Now it's kind of everyone has this new sense of freedom. But to your question about the money, so would you say that the people who have a higher income, they're more tight with their money versus their partner,
I find that, so when I'm working with my clients, and let's say if there's two individuals that are where I see where both of them, like if there's limited resources, just statistically, I see them work together better. I think because like the goals are like really clear, like I want to pay off X amount of debt. I want to buy a house. I want to buy a car. I want to save this. So it's like very simple. But when I'm working with two individuals that both of them are, high income earners, I find that ego plays a huge role in how money is shared, expressed, and exchanged. and grown, like I find it to be very, very different. So when it's the high income earners, I find the sharing happening more with those that don't have access to a lot of money. They don't, like, I find them sharing more. So what do you think is some of the social dynamics that's contributing to how those interactions are being?
So on one end, I think we have to realize that a high earning woman is a different type of woman. Like she's using a lot of masculine energy to manifest something, to produce is a masculine energy. So it's easier for that ego to clash. But I also think it depends on their parents' situation. So if a high income earning woman was a maybe her father was a single dad or her mom was a single mom, I think that would drastically change her perception of money versus if she was in a situation where she had two high income earners and she kind of saw what it could look like. And I think when you have a high income earning man, generally going to take pride in producing. It takes a lot of understanding that this woman needs more covering, in a sense. Like she's a producer, but she still needs, the finances shouldn't be an issue, right? Like, because like you said, the money is there, the resources are there.
Hmm.
So the money isn't an issue. I think it's a spiritual, emotional thing
Yes.
where
Yeah,
you
yeah. I
like,
find it to be more of a spiritual and emotional thing where in those couples I'm seeing that there's more distrust. I'm seeing more stagnation in the ability to like really grow and expand because there's so much communication deficits, right? Whereas when it's like, okay, we got $100, what we gonna do with this $200, right?
yeah,
But when we're talking about $15,000, 20, 50, $200,000, oftentimes I see the conversation to be a lot different and a lot difficult. Some of my other observations in some other couples is that I don't particularly like to see when oftentimes, so, and I know this is a more like more of your more of the conversation that you've been having more lately in terms of being able to rest in that masculinity, allowing it, this, the ideology of submission. And I'm not totally adverse or opposed to it. I mean, I have my ideals about it, but I think mostly a large part of it because of just like where I've been placed in terms of just looking at how income and economics play such a large role in a woman being able to um, financially sustain herself. So when you talk about, just years and years and years of like abuse of on both sides, where it comes to women abusing men and, in terms of, being with a man and really not really being with him, you're just kind of like financially attached to him, really don't care about him, so we have that as abuse. And then we have oftentimes when a male is the breadwinner and he's using the amount of income that he brings to the table as the way to, kind of like abuse the woman in in the relationship. So when we start talking about resting in this masculinity as a new space, whereas in many of us haven't, had this opportunity, a lot of us are creating it, which is why I get so excited about the conversations that you bring. This is a very nuanced concept, in terms of really sharing. So I think that there has to be space for healing before we all kind of jump in and be like, do this and do that. I think there's like a
yeah.
little bit of space in between. We can actually really actualize these ideas that we are articulating.
That's, you said a lot, because the healing part that comes with it, I feel like people don't understand. Like anybody can go make some more money. Like I tell people all the time, I think anybody can, with a reasonable plan and strategy, can probably take their business to six figures. But after the money shows up, then what? You still, if you're not spiritually healed, you're going to be a spiritually unhealed person with money. If you don't have your emotional wounds taken care of, you're going to be a person who they may even be amplified because now you have something material to protect versus
Yeah.
before not just protecting, you were actually protecting your spirit and your emotions. Now you're protecting your
Right.
money in place
Right.
of spirit and emotions. And I feel like
Right.
for a man to be married or even to date a woman who's a high income earner, you have to understand that she's probably already been through certain traumas getting to where she is, because she didn't get there overnight and it wasn't an easy journey. So she needs something beyond. She's not looking for money at this point.
Right.
It's great. Like, it's a prerequisite. Like, hey, I make this, I expect you to be here. But it's not the end all be all. It's okay, I
Right.
need spiritual protection. I need emotional provision. I need communication that's healthy. I need love that's healthy. This money stuff is just math. We can all figure that out. We can all figure out what we need to retire on, what we need to invest. We can figure that out with the calculator. We can't figure out love with a calculator. We can't figure out spirituality with a calculator. So it's these inherently more feminine things that we need to pay attention to. And I think sometimes when we look at a high income earning woman, we think, okay, well, she's about the money and that's it. But she has so many other needs. And sometimes a man's ego, you really have to be in a healthy space as a man, because your ego can take a hit because you're like, okay, you were taught providing is financial. And I think a lot of men get hung up on provision because they don't understand there's a holistic provision. I have to provide financially, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, physically, for her to feel holistically protected and supported and uplifted. If you're thinking, I brought the money, she shouldn't be arguing about this and that and this. I got the money's on the table, but that's not a full partnership. That's just money. Anyone can bring money without having any kind of connection or emotional support. And so I think it's a lot of self-awareness that has to come. I think, like you said, we get to the money, we get to the bag.
And interesting enough, I would offer that it's not only about self-awareness, it's a lot about self-development. I think the development piece has to come in once you see, the deficits are not just in your dollars. And then there's other part of this social construct that we have with women being more educated, with women being, leading when it comes to entrepreneurship. We're earning more than our counterparts. Those numbers are not just things that we're talking about, they're actual. So not only do we have the dichotomy where we're dealing with, okay, maybe there's two high income earners, but then what happens when we're dealing with the dichotomy of, the woman earning more than the male, which is a very typical scenario currently. So when we start talking about this idea of submission, which I'm not adverse to, it just is very interesting, especially at this time. I feel like both feminine and masculinity is being healed at this time. So when we start, having like these demands, and these requirements of each other, like submit, and it's like, man, my mom ain't been submitting for the last 20, 40, 50 years. What are you talking about right now? You know what I'm saying? And then the man, in a lot of ways, sometimes, depending on what his governance is, this whole submission idea may even be overwhelming to him. And he may only see it from an egotistical position, only see it in terms of theory and leadership and not actualization. So I'm not adverse to it. I just feel that it's a healing process. And I'm so glad that you're a part of it at the leading edge of the conversation and bringing it to the table. But the tools for healing so that we can actualize these concepts is what's going to be really good to experience.
Yeah. I think it can't be enough. Someone said a man can still be a provider even though he isn't the breadwinner. It's possible. It's possible. Yes. It's one of those, it's like I say, this is a very nuanced conversation. I would always, I try to be very idealistic on one hand, and I try to be very practical on the other hand. If you can meet that in the middle, of course you want things to go ideally, but things don't always go that way. So ideally you have if you're in the 2 income earning home, because sometimes people assume that he's the provider means he wants me to stay at home and not do anything but this. And some
Mm-hmm.
women do want to be stay-at-home wives or stay-at-home moms. And there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with that either, because there's other ways to, you know, support
Mm-hmm.
your husband. So there's nuance there already, but if he wants to really provide and it's not going to be financial, I think it's going to be, it depends on I think the income bracket is going to really be dependent, because I don't think you can
Yeah.
have a high income earning woman and they're in two different tax brackets. At that point, how much emotion is he providing that she could not get from someone who's earning in the same ballpark? So I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah, I think that one might come down to goals. Like it really depends on, individually. Some people don't necessarily, which leads us to our next question, because you talk about this a lot. And you talk about empire building, right? So not every couple is going to replicate the energy that we see in Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. You understand? Like that's just not always. We actually have a question. Okay, so let's answer this question. And before I get to my question, we have one. It says, I've seen women go for men making more than they were, but majority of the income was not coming in the household. I've seen women go for men making more than they were, but the majority of the income was not coming in the household. Okay, so wow, all right, that is interesting. So she's saying, Jay, that she has seen where women want to deal with a man who makes more money. However, the money never makes it to the household. Now, I just ain't never seen nothing like that, Jay. Now, what did you do that? What did you do that? Okay.
uh,
So that I think that would come back to that whole social emotional vulnerability piece, right? Because you just have to really be able to know whether or not, like, what, and that's almost like within that power couple kind of dynamic, because I think sometimes people get together on the basis of being able to build together when it comes to ambition and making money, but they don't also understand the chemistry that's necessary to build a family. And building an empire and building a family are just not the same. Like these are two things that have to be working together. So yeah, maybe y'all can get together and buy a bunch of property, but y'all gonna lose it in court because y'all don't know how to get along, don't know how to talk to each other, don't know how to get to each other. Like, what is this? You should have just stayed broke, if this is how y'all gonna act. So it
yeah.
comes down to so when it comes down to that part where you're being able to make sure that your partner is not only offering to you in terms of, what they give to you economically, but also how do you guys kind of mate emotionally, and what are some testers that you would say would be really good to know whether or not, if what I like to call cash compatible, like how are you being able to identify that, like, I'm cash compatible with this person?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a super long-term thinker when it comes to like finance.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to know where people's just their goals are, and because for me, it's there's a million ways to skin a cat, right? So someone there could be a woman who's in entrepreneurship and she has similar goals. There could also be a woman who's, you know, in an executive board for a nonprofit who has similar goals, but in a different way. So
Mm-hmm.
I look at long-term legacy. I'm thinking about what will be passed down to the grandchildren and the great grandchildren. And if that vision, the furthest vision out, like after we die, what are we passing down versus
Mm-hmm.
how much we're making today or how much we're making tomorrow, that's more of a short-term thing. And it's also not as prevalent because, again, different people fit different roles. So someone
Mm-hmm.
be able to support me in one way in a very strongly that may help me reach my goal versus someone else could afford, to help me in a different way. And it also gets me to my goal. So it's not even square fits in the circle kind of thing. It's like, maybe you need a square, maybe you need a circle, maybe you need a triangle. And you have to just see, because what I think I may need may not be everything I need. And what I
Right.
think I need may also not be what I need. So I'm open
Y-
to hearing
Yeah.
people's ideas and be like, that kind of aligns with, I never thought about it that way, or that makes sense if we. So I'm always open to hearing. I always say, are we going to the same place? Like, are we in harmony? Because I don't want to drag someone into my vision, and I don't want me to be dragging someone else's vision. So if our visions make sense, then we'll know they're aligned and we can just move in harmony. But if there are two different things, like, okay, you going left, I'm going right, we could be good friends. I'll call you from the left side, you call me from the right side, and we'll be good. But it's just all about harmony for me, because like you said, you family, you want to feel like you're not just in business together.
Right. So harmony is the thing. I mean, because all the deficits could be hired. You understand? Deficits can be hired, you know? So if the person that you're with in a partnership and they have, you know, the multiple, you know, they have 60% of this, the deficits can be hired. You understand what I'm saying? So harmony cannot be hired. You cannot hire harmony. You can't hire it. You understand? Like, it's not gonna, they don't have it. Like, it's just not gonna happen. Right. But the deficits can be higher. So I think when you're able to kind of test out this compatibility, you know, initially through conversation, through activity, through what you guys collectively like to spend your time doing, finding smaller projects to work on first before you do larger projects. Right. I know some couples that before they actually get married, they bought property together. So sometimes they're more married than they so that's always it. Okay, so before we got that question in, if there's any more questions from the audience, you guys just drop them in the comment section. If you guys have any questions about this, me and Jay is talking about, should you be dating if you're broke? If you don't have the financial resources, is that a time to kind of keep to yourself and kind of build individually to make sure that when you meet someone, you're actually meeting them with the basis of being able to create, or are you kind of, you know, mating out of codependency? So if you guys have some questions about that, go ahead and drop it in the comment section. If you want to add anything to something that me and Jay is saying, be sure to just jump right into the conversation. So the other question that before Fabiola asked the question I was talking about is that, like, not all of us are going to be, you know, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. Like, let's just ain't gonna be that, you know, it just ain't gonna be that. So some of us are just going to, you know, buy that house together, maybe 2 or 3, you know, get an Airbnb together. Maybe we might just raise children together, healthy children, you know, like, you know, intellectually, emotionally, all those. Hold on, we got a question. No, you should not date when you are broke, because that's when the sex creates babies. Now, babies are making it harder to get out of being broke. That is also a very interesting idea. So Jay, I'll go back to my question, but Nina, I'll stop over there with you just for a little bit. And we kind of talked about that a little bit in terms of trying to see, like, just what do you mean broke, you know, kind of like defining what broke is. And I like your definition when you're kind of living check to check, and then there's nothing extra to either save, grow, and invest with. You also can be, another way to know brokenness is like how you are experiencing life, you know, like, are you depressed by the limited amount of resources that you have? Is it causing you to be overly aggressive? You know, like, is it creating other deficits in your life? That's probably a time that you may want to kind of keep to yourself, because what may happen is that now you go and address that deficit with dollars, and now you're gonna have more depression because they bought you it just ain't right. So okay, so Jay, though, to her point, you talked about a little bit when I started talking about how healthy my grandparents' relationship was, how they were together for 60 years and how they built and they grew and, you know, expanded in a very healthy way that I've always had. Like, and I'm an observer, right? So some people be bragging about their marriage. I'd be like, Lord, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I don't know. You know, I don't know. Right. But my grandparents, I absolutely adore them in and out completely. But you touched on how marriage is happening a lot sooner, right? Versus what Nina is talking about when she's saying, okay, if you don't have a whole lot of resources, it's probably going to create more financial deficits for you. Or what are you gonna say about that? Because now the babies are making it harder for you to be able to. So it really depends, right? Because, like, what is motivation to you may be stagnation to me. right? So someone could procreate and that can cause them to go and create a business, right? Someone could procreate and that can cause them to, they might have been wasteful with money before. And now that they have created a child, now all of a sudden they're a lot more accountable for the income that they bring in. So I would offer that that's really on a case by case basis. I wouldn't really be able to really generalize it. And I think the most important part, and whether or not if you can or cannot do this, like if you should be dating in the dating phase, it's really going to have a large impact on your emotional intelligence. I would say that would be like one of the determining factors. What would you say, Jay?
So if you're broke in the space you're talking about, like the mental, emotional space, I think you're 1,000% should not be dating. But again, we go back to the money, because you're going to over index. And there's a lot of people who make a lot of money. There are people who are broke who make six figures. They make six figures and they end up with $4,000 at their bank account at the end of the year. Like there's people who don't save anything, who even earn a lot of money. So are they in a financial space to where they should add on someone else? It's like, again, it is case by case because it's so nuanced, because everyone is different. We all have different triggers, different responses, different lifestyles. But on an idealistic level, I'm just going to always lean to idealistic and then try to turn it practical. But am I doing, because I think overall, being broke, like you can earn a lot of money and not save anything, it's really about, am I living life in my own best interest, right? Because if you make a lot of money, don't save anything, then what's the use of the money? If I'm living life in my best interest, I can afford energetically to then look after someone else's best interest. If I'm not looking out for me, and I'm not looking out for you, I'm really using you for, like I said, my deficiencies, the places that I feel empty. I'm going to start using you up, whether we both have money and we both just blow our money all the time. Or like, I think people think, being broke is not making any money, but you can make a lot of money and still be broke. And there's a reason people make a lot of money and still end up broke, because they're spending money on things to fill something up. They're not looking long term because they're not concerned with the long term for some reason. And financially, spiritually, emotionally, it's better, like I said, that self-development, to say, you know what, I deserve better than how I'm treating myself right now, financially, mentally, spiritually. Let me adjust myself so I can have space. I can make room for someone else in my life.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I am with you. I am with it. Okay, folks, so I hope that you guys have enjoyed this conversation. I certainly have. It's given me the opportunity to kind of go through some of Jay Malik's thoughts. In fact, I'm going to do something that I've been wanting to do. I have a few of some of his favorite posts, right? And I'm going to post them up here, and I'm going to let him expound and explain them, because I know sometimes you can get lost in the comment section. I don't read a lot of the comment sections, but I have to go through, sis. I have to see what he's talking about. All right, this one says, a woman who allows a man of a lower vibration to enter her vortex will manifest dissonance in her life. Good. Yeah. So what you trying to say, Jay? What you trying to say?
So women, y'all are multipliers by nature. Whatever you receive, you multiply. If you watch reality TV 24/7, you're gonna start multiplying that in your life. If you start watching financial, resources, documentaries, you're gonna multiply that in your life. It's gonna become part of your life. So a man is more powerful than reality TV, because he got actual energy that you exchanging with every day. So you allow this man to come into your space, come into your body, and you're going to get the result of his energy, whether you think it's good or not. You may think it's good energy. You may feel good in the moment, but you're going to be like, yeah, why is this happening? Why the car just break down? It's going to be a bunch of stuff happening.
Right here, Jay. Let me give you some of my money, Jay. Let me give you some of my money. Let me give you. next one. Here goes one of the next ones. Let's bring up another one. Here goes another one of your favorite quotes. She's looking for masculine energy that is not attached to your ego, but to your spirit. She's looking for a masculine energy that is not attached to your ego, but to your spirit. Can you expound on that one just a little bit, Jay?
Look, this is really big when it comes to money, because we can get caught up in the ego. The ego is here for a purpose, but it's not here to be dominant over us. And for a man to really get in tune with a woman's energy, he has to be in tune with his own spiritual feminine energy that's inspiring him to move forward. So if I'm only concerned about what I produce, I'm only concerned about how much money I make, the house I live in, this and that, and this and that, and I'm not ever looking inward, how can I ever really appreciate the intrinsic thing that a woman brings to a man? It's like impossible.
Got it. I'm with it. All right. A woman who is a boss doesn't want to come home carrying that masculine energy around all day long. Sis don't want to do it. Sis don't. Let me get you the money, Jay. Let me get you the money, Jay. Let me get you the money.
Multiplying.
Okay. She don't want to do it. All right, Jay. Tell me about this one.
I know a lot of high income earning women, business owners, professionals, etc. And I know all of them love what they do. They all love being able to move up in society, but they are not in love with the energy they have to use daily to get there. And they need a break. Like they enjoy it because that's part of them. Like that ambition is, you can't sit that person down and be like, don't do anything. They're going to go out here and get it. If they didn't need the money or not, they go work a nonprofit. They're going to get some money somewhere because they like producing. But when she gets home, she wants to feel like she can be a woman. She can be free. She can be safe. She can be free flowing. She can be protected. And so when a high income earning man sees a high income earning woman, he has to remember, yo, she's still a woman. She's not your bro. She's still a woman. She still wants to be protected and whole. Like that's just what she needs. And so when we look at high income earning women, we have to remember that last word. She's still a woman.
That's right. They say do it for the vine. Sis say I ain't going to do it. I ain't going to do it. All right, let's get the last quote up. I think this is the last one. This one is my last one. Let's see this one. I think I got one more, just one more quote. That one, I think that one was like my favorite. Nope, that was my last quote. That was my last one. All right, ladies, I'm super thankful for the conversation that you offer to the collective. Thank you for just being so thought-provoking. We don't always agree. However, it is always to provoke a thought, to get you to think and to get you to come up with some new ideas. These conversations are so important to me because it is how we heal the world. When we have a healed woman and we have a healed man, then we're able to produce children that know how to operate on a high level. As we produce children that know how to operate on a high level, then we can do that one home at a time, one community at a time, and that is how we change the world. So I really, really appreciate what it is that you are offering to the collective so that we can continue to build on this conversation, have a bit of contrast, because in contrast is where creativity is born, and we don't want to just be talking about how to be better to each other. We want to actually start implementing them, and that only comes through chaos. If we're talking about shaking up some of these nuanced thoughts about how we operate with each other, not only how we operate with money, but how we operate emotionally, which is indicative of how we operate with because money is just physical energy, and how we be acting is other energy, and it's all just energy, So I appreciate that. For those of you that are here, for those of you that are hanging out with us, next week I'm going to be talking all about cryptocurrency. So thanks for hanging out with us this week. If you have more conversation, questions for Jay, we are going to drop his IG in the comment section so that you guys can drop it and follow him. Again, he is always offering over some new ideas to be able to heal the way we relate to each other. I'll yield these last couple of minutes, Jay, for you to contribute something if you have something else to say. And then we're going to get on out of here.
Hey, last words. Ultimately, we have to be spiritually rich before we can be materially rich. And even when we have the material wealth, we have to always continue to expand on our spiritual, emotional, and psychological well-being, because that is what we get the money for, to improve our quality of life. And so when you have that, understand that's the real wealth you're trying to build with your partner, the quality of life that isn't always seen in the physical energy. You get that? I feel like you get the money, you have the best of both worlds.
I'm with it. I am with it. Again, so you guys can find him. Oh, listen, for those of you who want more from him after you read a couple of his comments, he has an amazing book called It Is Not Spiritual to Be Broke. Okay, my boys are going to be doing a book review on it very soon. It's a quick read. It will really help you to be able to heal your mind about how you are building a relationship with your money so that you can deconstruct it, so that you can be able to have access to resources that allow you to live a life that you deeply desire. I think when you have access to more money, it takes care of a lot of other stuff. So if you can't go to therapy, you got more money, now you're going. All right, folks, all next week we're going to be talking about cryptocurrency. So questions that you might have about getting started. Should I be using my stimulus check to do it? What if I made a mistake? What if I lost all my money? What's the most amount should I put in? We're going to be handling those questions next week. All about, I know, right, She? It's not spiritual to be poor. It's just not. Thank you, She. Thank you, She. Did I say it's not spiritual to be broke? Is that what I said, Jay?
What you said? I don't know what you said.
I better. Thank you, She. You have my back. So yes, it is. It's not spiritual to be poor. I said it the other way. I'd be getting excited. All right, folks. So thank you, guys. I hope that everyone who tuned in tonight feels richer than they started off. I hope that you were able to take in at least one thing that added some value to your purse or your wallet. Until next time.
Wow.